Okay, so get ready to dive into one of the most delightfully absurd things I've ever heard, the cat toast paradox, right? That whole what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, but with cats and toast?
Yeah, it does sound a bit like a bad physics joke, right? But it's actually a great jumping off point to think about the physics of everyday stuff. Gravity, momentum, even things like thermodynamics.
See, the first time I heard this, I thought it was a joke. I had no idea people actually took this seriously.
Oh, absolutely. You see, that whole thing about cats always landing on their feet, it's not just, them being graceful. It's physics. It's a reflex called the righting reflex, and it's wild. They can actually twist their bodies in midair and use angular momentum to make sure they land gracefully on their paws.
So it's like they've got some secret ninja skills or something. It's not just luck.
Haha. Yeah, kind of. It's all about physics, though. There were these two scientists, Kane and Archer, back in 1969, and they actually studied this reflex. They found out that cats can actually rotate their front and back halves independently, almost like two separate rotating systems, just to nail that perfect landing.
1969, huh?
Mm.
The year we landed on the moon. And I guess the year we figured out how cats land on their feet. Impressive. Okay, but we got to talk about the other half of this whole paradox here. The toast.
Ah, yes. The toast. A little less graceful, but just as interesting when it comes to physics. That idea that toast always lands butter side down. Well, it's not totally a myth. It actually has to do with the way that toast rotates as it falls, usually from like a table, and it tends to slip off plates, which kind of sets it up for a faceplant.
Wait, hold on. You're saying there's actual research on why toast falls a certain way?
Oh, there's research on everything. There was this study in 1995 by a researcher named Matthews, and they looked at, well, the physics of falling toast. Turns out the height of a standard table combined with the spin that the toast develops as it falls, it often, it usually lands butter side down.
I knew it. All this time I thought it was just me. But no, it's physics out to get my breakfast.
Okay, so we've got cats defying gravity, and we've got toast, well, betraying us with physics. But this cat toast paradox asks, what if we combine them? What if we, strapped toast to a cat?
That's the question, isn't it? What happens to the laws of physics when an unstoppable force meets, well, a piece of toast? It really makes you think.
Yeah. It's Team Cat versus Team Toast in an epic physics showdown. Where do we even begin to figure this out? We've got to think about their center of mass, right? We'd have to find the center of mass for this weird cat toast thing, and that depends on how big the cat and toast are and even their positions. And that point, that center of mass, that's going to tell us a lot about how this whole system will move.
Okay, so if the cat is heavier, would the center of mass be closer to the cat? Does that mean the cat would be more likely to, win?
Yeah, exactly. It would definitely give the cat an edge. But then there are the other forces involved. The cat's righting reflex. It's not magic, it's angular momentum. That just means it's a measure of how much an object wants to keep rotating.
So we got a furry little pork machine then, all that twisting and turning. But what about the toast? It's not known for its aerial acrobatics.
And that's where it gets interesting, right? Because the toast has its own physics to bring to the table. Literally. As the cat is trying to right itself, the toast is going to exert its own force, its own counterforce. Remember Newton's third law. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Oh boy. So now I'm just imagining a cat spinning wildly through the air, trying to get away from this piece of toast that just really wants to land butter side down. Would it actually be that chaotic, though?
It's definitely a funny image, but it gets to the heart of why this is a paradox. If we, ignore things like air resistance and the fact that the cat probably wouldn't be too happy about this whole experiment, this system of forces could, in theory, find some kind of equilibrium.
Equilibrium, so like a balance point where neither the cat nor the toast wins.
Yeah, exactly. They could end up in a kind of synchronized spin, constantly counteracting each other. It would be something to see, for sure.
A spinning cat toast tornado. Okay, that image is both amazing and terrifying. But I do have to ask, and I hate to be a downer here, but doesn't this feel, I don't know, impossible? Like it breaks the laws of physics? This whole spinny forever thing seems too good to be true.
You're definitely onto something there. I mean, there's a reason this is called a paradox. To understand why our cat toast dream team can't just spin happily ever after, we need to talk about perpetual motion and why it's about as real as, say, unicorn.
Perpetual motion, huh? Sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But you're saying it's not really a thing in the real world.
Yeah, perpetual motion, it's a nice idea, but the universe, and by the universe I really mean physics, has other plans. It'd be pretty great, right? A
Yeah.
machine that just goes and goes makes energy without ever needing more.
Right. Sign me up. You're saying this is where our cat toast perpetual motion machine falls apart. What exactly is this show-stopping physics you speak of?
It's this little thing called thermodynamics.
Thermodynamics. Okay, I'm already lost. Lay it on me. What is it, and why does it hate on my cat toast dream team?
Okay, so imagine, right, a machine that just never stops. It just keeps making energy without needing fuel or batteries or anything. That's the dream of perpetual motion. But the universe likes its rules, and perpetual motion, sadly, breaks a few.
So even if our toast cat contraption actually, did manage to spin perfectly,
Yeah.
something would still stop it.
Yep.
Yep, exactly. Even in a perfectly ideal cat toast tornado, there'd still be energy loss happening in the system in small but very real ways.
Okay, now you've lost me again. What kind of energy loss? What would slow our spinning buddies down?
Think about it. You've got the cat's fur rubbing up against the toast. That's a bit of friction. Then the toast itself might start to crumble under the pressure, right? And those are just two small examples.
Mhm.
But all those interactions, any heat made, any change in motion, even a tiny bit, it all adds up. That's energy being lost, and it's got to go somewhere.
Almost like a sort of tax on the system. This little energy drain that eventually just stops the whole show. Exactly. That's a good way to think about it. Thermodynamics is pretty clear. Energy can change forms, but we can't just, create it out of thin air, right?
Yeah.
And in the real world, even one with a spinning cat toast combo, there's always going to be some energy loss. Always.
So as much as it pains me to say it, it sounds like our gravity-defying, breakfast-themed dream team is doomed from the start.
Pretty much, yeah. But hey, think about it this way. Even though our cat toast paradox could never really happen, just thinking about this gets us thinking about the rules of the universe in a fun way. And that's pretty cool in itself.
Right. It's like tricking ourselves into learning something by thinking about something totally absurd.
Exactly. And speaking of absurd, did you know this whole cat toast thing has popped up in pop culture a few times?
Really? I can totally see that. It's such a weird, memorable image. It's practically begging to be in a movie or something. Like what? Give me an example.
Well, there's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you know that one. Famous for being kind of a strange book. But the point is, the cat toast paradox, or at least the idea of it, totally fits in.
It's like Douglas Adams, the author, saw this whole thing and was like, yep, that's going straight into my book.
Right. And it just goes to show, even something as silly as a cat and a piece of toast can really capture people's imaginations. It gets us thinking, and that's what matters.
It really proves that sometimes the best ideas, the most interesting stuff, it comes from the most unexpected places. Or in our case, the breakfast table. So we've spent all this time talking about, spinning cats and toast physics. It's fun and all, but I feel like there's got to be a bigger point to all this, right?
Yeah, totally. It's more than just a funny thought experiment. The cat toast paradox, even if it'll never really happen, it shows how important curiosity is. How there's always something more to learn, something hidden in plain sight, if we just look for it.
It's like, what's that quote? The universe is full of magical things, patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper. Except in this case, it's waiting for us to notice cats and toast.
Exactly. This whole thing, it's a fun way into some pretty fundamental physics.
Yeah.
We talked about angular momentum, center of mass, even thermodynamics, and it all started with the cat and toast.
It just goes to show science is everywhere,
Yeah.
even in our breakfast.
Right. And you don't even need, a lab or a fancy degree to start asking questions about it. All it takes is being curious and, looking at things in a new way.
So as we wrap this up, what's the big takeaway here?
Yeah.
What should we be thinking about after this whole deep dive?
I think the big takeaway is the universe is full of these fun little paradoxes, things that seem impossible, but they make us stop and think. And in those moments when we're like, wait, how does that work? That's where the really cool science is.
It's like the universe is just leaving these little puzzles lying around waiting for us to find them. And sometimes the answers, they just make you realize how incredible, how strange everything really is.
That's a great way to put it. So next time you come across something that makes you scratch your head, something in science that seems impossible or just plain weird, don't just ignore it.
Yeah.
Embrace it. Ask the questions. You never know what you might discover.
You might even be the one to crack the next big scientific mystery. All thanks to a little curiosity and a healthy dose of, the unexpected. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time for another adventure into the world of fascinating facts and, of course, more thought-provoking ideas.